I was going to say Melander's melons, but I think we took that out.
Oh, we can't say that.
I have no idea.
By my father's hobnailed boot.
But that's where there's a lot of real joy. What would a char swear in this situation? You have to sort of think about that. It's one of the perks of the job. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left.
And by the way, just as a side, I always put the idea if they're going to have a curse, I want them to curse creatively. So basically, that's one of the meta rules that we have there. So yeah, we have about 15 minutes.
Yeah, so if there's nothing else left that we want to broach, I think we can open up to the floor. Let's start right here.
Yes. As much as we can.
Yes.
As much as we can. Yeah. In the story chain, certainly, if you meet someone here, and we try to reuse characters. So if you came out of the Sylvari chain and met someone very important in the Sylvari world, he might be important later in a totally different quest chain for the Vigil. But we try to remember that if the Sylvari's met him before, it's going to have a slightly different reason.
We go out of our way to make the characters knowledgeable of the world.
Yeah.
We call it knowledge proliferation.
There are often times that you'll enter an area, have a fight, and there's an NPC there. That NPC has a conversation before the fight and after the fight, and it will reflect what happened in the fight.
We try to give them something specific to say about what you just did, so that it shows that they know about it, one way or the other. We try. It really helps with immersion when you can do that kind of thing.
We can't do it universally, unfortunately, but because what you, as you know, it's that you have to keep track of everything. Have I met this guy before? Under what circumstances? Do I need to remind you of what those circumstances are? So,
Question over here.
So the dream and the nightmare is the counter side of it. For our personal story, can we play through as if we're playing the nightmare?
can you play as Nightmare Court?
You can role play any way you want. So you can totally get a set of armor that you feel looks like Nightmare Court and dress it up in ways that you seem is suitable. You can, if you're a ranger, you can try to get a pet that looks very dark and so forth. And we encourage you. We try to give you options for role play. In the actual game, you're never going to have a player character that can walk into a Nightmare Court area and go, "Hi guys," and not have some hurt. But you can role play it anyway.
The Nightmare Court are the main evil bad guys for the Sylvari. It's like Flame Legion Archer and that's like.
So by the same token, you're not going to play Inquest if you're Inquest if you're a sword.
I'll definitely get plenty of chances to interact with them.
Black hat in the back. Yeah, you.
Cool. I have two questions about the Sylvari and Ree. It's just want to say off the bat, I'm really happy to see all the Irish Bay influences in there.
All kinds of Celtic. We didn't stop at Irish, boy. We went crazy.
I know. I actually speak Gaelic.
There you go.
So my two questions are one about the names, and two about Sylvari philosophy. First thing is the names. I've been noticing the consistency using Celtic names. Names like Cadden and Malamidi seem a little bit Mediterranean or using a Gaulish influence there.
A lot of what we're doing there is we're first we take Celtic names and we break them down to syllables. We make a big syllable chart. People can try to put names together like that as long as you can pronounce it, because that's always one of the problems.
Okay.
Yeah, especially Welsh.
We are trying to some of the stuff we're using is not just cute Gaelic. It's also the Gaelic that's been influenced by Romans that came in and took over that area. So you do find some Celtic heroes and some translations that have a little more of that attitude to it. And we don't want to be ever just something for a race, because as much as they're influenced by that, they aren't Celtic, they aren't Irish, they're Sylvari. So we want to give them a little bit of a broader span, both in naming and in story.
And we like to say we want to be reminiscent of that and influenced by it rather than mimicking it and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so my second question is actually for a lot of role players. Some of us, we had a big discussion in my guild a while back about the tablet. A lot of us think that Sylvari it's not ingrained. So the question is, could another court or faction evolve that wasn't necessarily a Nightmare Court, but more of a midline group that kind of agreed with both sides? Could another
Certainly, that philosophy is philosophy.
So,
you can certainly make your own take on it. And we see Sylvari in the Grove in small side scenes that are learning the tablet, and one of the firstborn is walking around and talking to them about the different tenets, and they have questions and they're curious. So.
We could also mention Lion's Arch in this context, I think, because Lion's Arch is sort of our cosmopolitan melting pot type city, and there we see Char, who may not be as connected with their legion as when they were born. We may also see Sylvari, who are starting to explore other philosophies.
I think we have
that would be kind of rare, but it could happen.
I think we have an example. The Silvari tend to be a little agnostic. They don't know what religion is out there they're still learning. But you have one or two of them that are kind of interested in other people's religions. Think of that.
Thanks.
I almost put them skeptic more than agnostic. They are looking because they're willing to accept. They're willing to accept the benefit of the doubt. So.
Yeah, gentleman with the beard. Yeah, you.
Two questions. One's the fan base, the other actually with the books. For the voice actor work, were you able to get Marisa Marsh again for working on the Ashura?
Well, he played a specific character. He's no longer here, so we didn't attempt for that.
I don't know if I really want to say who we don't have. We do have a wide variety of actors. We're bringing in a lot more. Yes, Alicia. We have Claudia Christian. Jennifer Hale was here. And she's Queen Jenna. At the present time, no plans. But to be honest with you, I hate to say that only because opportunities present themselves at such a rapid rate for us.
Okay. The other question was, there's been a lot of focus in trailers and whatnot with the characters out of Edge of Destiny. The ones from Ghost of Ascalon, are they going to be mentioned at all in the game?
Yes, you'll meet some of the characters from Ghost of Ascalon happened a year ago before game time, so the survivors will be there in the game when we've written some scenes for them.
Colleen coming back.
No comment.
Right up front here.
For example, some wars chose to do the ritual, some did not. So my question is, you're talking about the chart, Lauren, Sarah, kind of feel the information of wars, or is there any coverage of what happened to them to explain why they disappeared off the face?
Within the lore, all the dwarves have gone down. They have basically all have answered original or over time. They basically have all. The Stone Summit is gone. The dwarves have all basically been transformed, and they are fighting the battle in the depths. There will be. How do I pace this very carefully?
Well, we've said there is at least one dwarf in the world
in the
that you can go talk to. He has conversations.
Yep.
And there may be opportunities for you to see what the others are up to.
And then the other part was more, you were talking about having the influences of Raven and Bear and Wolf, but not Snow Leopard. Snow Leopard is very much part of those two.
Yes.
How are they playing in terms of your how either user to be or be influenced?
What you saw in Eye of the North was not the entire.
Yeah, it was a sliver of
was a snapshot of the North, and basically as they were driven south, you saw a lot of other spirit animals that were important, being guides, being invoked. There are a lot more than just the ones you've seen. We talked about. We mentioned owl. We mentioned so basically the embodiment of various virtues.
We try to be real careful. We talk about Snow Leopard, Raven, and Bear and Wolf as the main or most important spirits, but
not
there are more. Yeah, Black Hat.
Okay, I had a quick question. Hypothetically, if I am playing human and I help my friend who's, say, playing Char or Silvari, will I be able to see them talking to an NPC and hear it?
Most of the time, in a story instance, if you're looking at a cinematic, yeah, you'll see him if it's his quest.
But if you're having a conversation with a conversation tree, no.
Yeah, you may be able to talk to some of the NPCs, but if you're going on the storyline, it's all supposed to be geared for that one player. You can definitely play with them, but you'll see their story.
Okay. Right there. Yeah.
In Guild Wars 1, there's a tremendous amount of pop culture and classic literature, subtle and not so subtle references, and it's great. I love it. So one, or partly been answered by the Roman Celtic influence that you're talking about. Are those references going to be there in Guild Wars 2? And two, what is your background? How much reading are you doing to get this classical literature that no one picks up anymore?
Yes, some you will find both some pop references and some cultural and classical references throughout.
But not
we like it to be an
not as much in Guild Wars 2 as we saw toward the end of Guild that's not to say we won't see drakes on a plane or sides. Or the killer bunny. I thought the killer bunny was great.
I'd say we all have very different backgrounds. I mean, some of us come just from having read a whole lot of stuff and not a lot of education, formal education. I have formal education in myth and literature. Jeff's got a vast amount of education in D&D.
But I'm a civil engineer by training. So basically, a lot of what my wife refers to as my vast repository of useless information. I like to read nonfiction. I like to read histories. I like to research, other cultures, and that's something I do for fun. And strange as it seems, and a lot of that becomes very useful when we're saying we want the Char to have a Roman influence. Well, what does that mean? Well, they have an industrial base, so basically it's a little more advanced, but their organization functions like this. Language, we don't go exactly with the classic Latinate, but rather with sort of a mock Latin for a lot of our locations, because we want to make it feel like Roman as opposed to going.
It's not Spartacus, it's Charters.
Exactly.
In the back corner.
I just have a question, more on like your personal opinions. Are there characters in Guild Wars 1 that you feel, bringing, obviously, can't bring the characters over, but maybe like their stories, especially the ones that talking about the characters that aren't fleshed out, like the ones that maybe have a minor role, but you're like, I just love that character, and we see more of those. Do you guys have any of those kind of characters that in the back of your head?
Well, I know one thing that's interesting for me is the ghosts that we have. The humans, a lot of them died at the hands of the Char, and they're still around. So that's a good opportunity. Yeah, in the Faux Fire, it's a good opportunity for us to sort of go back and take a few of these stories and expand on them.
But hopefully in a way that old players of the original game will go, oh, I remember that guy. But players of the new game will go, who's that? He's interesting. I now know as much.
It's the idea of a ghost kind of caught in the loop and reliving the last so on hours of their life. You can kind of get a sense of what their story is like that way. It's one thing we're doing.
I'm a big proponent of moving forward, basically, going with the new characters. Basically, we have a lot of the heritage and history that's with us, and that carries with us going forward. But I'm also, the game is about you. It's about you. This is your story.
And the Nord like to brag about their ancestors.
Yes.
So we hear that kind of thing.
Yeah, there are a lot of locations in the game. Locations in the game that were in Guild Wars 1 are shout outs to Guild Wars 1. And there are some descendants, legacy people, characters. Right here?
I think we have one more. More questions.
I start with this book.
Which book is that? Hold it up.
It's
Age of Destiny.
If I make a Solari, will I be able to meet Falane in the story of Chaos?
Yes. You may not
Even-
enjoy the meeting.
Even if you don't create a Silvar, you may be Falane.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
She might meet you.
Second question, in the Eye of the North, it showed Lydia having a scepter of war. We see that.
We are not allowed at this time to answer questions involving a scepter of war.
I would tone it somewhat different. I said we set a lot of hooks in Eye of the North. We created the potential for a lot of options. We've used some of them. We haven't used all of them. One more, and I think we're done.
One more?
Can you give any commentary on maybe are the Char going to have any religious development in Guild Wars 2?
Flame Legion, I would call that.
These still exist.
Yeah.
They're a cult of personality, but they're also a cult of power.
They've also been saying what the humans have been doing.
They're significant enough to be on with ongoing civil war and the rest of the Char, and it's definitely a religious space.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, the Char don't deny that there are magically powerful beings out there, but they just don't worship.
They aren't atheistic so much as they are anti-theistic. They basically, yes, humans have gods, okay, but those make you weak. So we don't want them. No, sir, we don't want them. So we're not going to deal with that. That's a general Char attitude. Flame Legion, they were in the god business. Here we got the Titans. We got Abaddon. And we got the Great Destroyer. And so that's a hard habit for them to break.
One last question. Go ahead. One last thing.
Yeah, I was just wondering where the idea of the Nightmare Court was rooted and how far it branches in.
Oh, yeah,
Pretty
it
fun
is.
to learn that together.
Oh, my God. Terrible. The Nightmare Court came from was
clear the decks for the next group. I'd like to thank
Thank you
everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.